Good evening, welcome to the Buck Stops here. I'm Vishnu Shoma. On the program this evening, the explosive remarks by the former RAW chief AS Dulat to NDTV trigger a storm when he said intelligence agencies in Kashmir funded separatists and militants, something he mentions in his new book. Well, AS Dulat was perhaps outing one of Kashmir's biggest open secrets, but now the intelligence guru finds himself at the center of criticism, with many saying that AS Dulat had perhaps said too much. At 1:30, we'll be bringing you that interview with AS Dulat, the interview to Barkha Dutt. Well, ahead of our debate this evening coming up in the next few minutes, this is what AS Dulat told Barkha last night on the program, The Buck Stops Here, a short version.
Do you confirm that many of the expenses of these separatists, the Hurriyat conference and even some of the militants are being met by the covert agencies of India and the covert agencies of Pakistan?
Yeah, from time to time, that's well known. They have been met. Mr. Gilani Sahab hasn't been in the best of health over the last some years, and Government of India has looked after him. He has been taken to Bombay and here, there, and even his airfares, I think, have been arranged at times. This is not such a big deal. And there was a time when, Yasin had a heart problem, and he was admitted in AIMS. So he had great faith in Dr. Upinder Kaul, who performed the surgery, because he had I think he needed a valve replacement in the heart or something. So all these things did happen.
No, I know they happen, but nobody
as far as let me make this clear.
Nobody admits to it, sir.
You see, as far as engagement with the militants or with the separatists go, let me say very openly, very candidly that yes, we were in touch with everybody. The only thing, as far personally, the only person I've never met is Gilani Sahab. And I have a regret there. I think I would still like to meet him if I got a chance. But that's it. I've met everybody else. I've interacted with everybody else.
Well, Yasin Malik, the separatist leader, has categorically denied some of those remarks made by Mr. Dulat.
About air tickets. You are laughing. No, I am laughing that now for Dulat Sahab, we think our price is air ticket. That is the reason I am laughing. From last 22 years, whenever I travel, I bring all the tickets from them. So you better ask them who was paying you, Dulat Sahab or Yasin.
All right, well, what exactly was Mr. Dulat actually intending to do by outing what a lot of people have felt was the biggest secret that's existed in Jammu and Kashmir for decades? What is the ramification of actually saying that separatists and militants have been funded by intelligence agencies? Joining us to debate this, General VP Malik, the former Chief of Army Staff, Sanju Verma, spokesperson of the BJP, and Sanjay Jha, spokesperson of the Congress Party. I'd like to thank all of you very much for joining us. General Malik, let me come to you first. Why do you believe that funding separatists and militants in Kashmir has been a double-edged sword?
Yeah, it is a double-edged sword, Vishnu, because the politicians feel that they can get some people to come over ground. One or two people have come over ground, but most of them have not come over ground. And for the security forces, it's a major problem in handling these people. On the other hand, my experience is that these separatists, they feel more confident, they feel that they can get away even when they are in a bad situation with the security forces, and they feel that they can be saved by the politicians and the intelligence agencies. And my own experience has been that it has not really worked in India, particularly in J&K. These people have been getting all the benefits, and yet look at the situation on the ground. It is a double-edged weapon, and by and large, my feeling is that in India, it has not succeeded.
Sanju Verma, why does the BJP have reservations of about what Mr. Dulat has said? Because what he was stating as he himself said, is the most obvious thing that intelligence agencies around the world do. There is a lot of money which is spent by intelligence agencies. It's not spoken about, but it's done. So what does the BJP have a problem with? The fact that militants and separatists are being funded, or the fact that Mr. Dulat actually spoke about it?
So there are two parts to your question. Does the BJP have a problem with the fact that militants are being funded, or with the fact that, Mr. Dulat has chosen to speak after 15 or 16 long years? I would go far in as much as saying that it's like washing dirty linen in public. Of course, the dirty here is with pun intended, because certain things, are supposed to be taken with you to the grave, because we are all repositories to various kinds of secrets when we are in public life. So let me start by first coming to your second question. The fact of the matter is that, let's not forget that it is not Mr. Dulat who has, written this book. It has primarily been written by Mr. Aditya Sinha, a veteran journalist who has collated the facts. And I don't know if, the panelists are aware of the fact that about 14 to 15 hours back, Mr. Aditya Sinha has on record in an interview in the Indian Express gone ahead and said that, the information that Mr. Dulat gave him was, something that tantamounted to a boring gazetted notification, and it was he who molded and shaped facts and turned them into a gripping narrative. So I think the veracity of Mr. Dulat's
I have
claims,
to interrupt
right or wrong,
because,
they need to be taken not just with a pinch of salt, but
what
with
Dulat
bucketfuls
had
of salt.
actually had to say in his book may have been, rewritten by a journalist and spiced up. The fact of the matter is, in his interview to NDTV last night, he categorically said that using money to win people over is perhaps the most effective tool, and I quote, at the disposal of intelligence officers, not just in Kashmir, not just all over the subcontinent, but all over the world. He pretty much said, this is what's in his book, he said this, he paraphrased this. He said, what's the big deal? It's done all over the world. And he also went on to say, it's a more humane
Vishnu,
thing.
let me interrupt here.
It's a more humane thing than bumping off one's enemies. That's what he said. Go ahead, Sanju.
Yes, let me come straight to the point. The fact remains that what I just mentioned about Mr. Aditya Sinha's claims, I think, you cannot wish them away under the carpet, because don't forget, I'm quoting him ad verbatim. He says that he had to shape and mold the scattered reminiscences of a 74-year-old. What can be more scathing than that?
Right.
Hypothetically, if we were to assume that all that Mr. Dulat has said is indeed the gospel of truth, even then, the fact of the matter is that, when he was privy to information, when he was advisor to Mr. Vajpayee, or when he was serving as the IB chief in 1998, all the way up to 2000, I fail to understand why is he caught up in this web of generics. Because when you make an allegation which is as serious as that,
I'm not sure there is a web of generics. It's quite specific. And as far as 70-year-olds are concerned, we've got one 70-plus-year-old gentleman on this program, and I can tell you he's one of the sharpest minds in the country. But before I go back to him, let me go across to Sanjay Jha. Sanjay, the argument being made by the BJP is that essentially this is a this article, or rather I should say this book, is being written by somebody, it's being embellished by a journalist, and it perhaps doesn't reflect the truth because it's written by a 74-year-old many years after he was in service. And then the BJP also says that he shouldn't have said it. So
I did not say it doesn't reflect the truth, but Mr. Aditya Sinha has said he has shaped and molded facts to turn the book
Vishnu,
into a
I'll answer
narrative.
when the lady is a little more restrained.
Shaped and molded facts which the author stands by. Which the author stands by. That's why we are having this debate. But let Sanjay reply, and then I'll come back to you, Sanju.
Look, let me tell you one thing. Vishnu,
can I answer, ma'am, without an interruption, if you don't mind?
Sanjay, go ahead. Sanju, we've got time.
The release of the book. What do you expect Mr. Dulat to say?
Sanju Verma, we've got time.
What do you expect him to say?
Sanju Verma, we've got time. Let me go across to Sanjay Jha for a moment. Sanjay, will you go ahead before I go? I'll come back to you, Sanju, in a moment. Sanjay Jha, go ahead.
Yeah. Hopefully without an interruption. Vishnu, the simple point, the outburst from the BJP spokesperson is a manifestation of how hypersensitive this government is to any criticism, feedback, constructive or scathing, whatever it might be. Now, first and foremost, we need to be a little dispassionate when discussing the book of Mr. Amarjit Singh Dulat. He was a raw chief, and he was a raw chief during the time of Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Now, the bottom line is, I think the BJP is reacting because there is a very damning indictment of the way, he's described the very inefficient, incapable, incompetent way by which they handled the Kandahar hijacking. But to answer your critical question, you see, end of day, I think, it is about time that there was greater debate publicly as well. I mean, I agree that some matters are sensitive, and I'm sure those matters which need to be strictly confidential are not being disclosed. But end of day, I think it's about time we were not very churlish and defensive about how the overall security establishment operates, or what really are the decisions which are taken. And it's not necessarily every time entirely political. It is taken by people who are on the ground, who are actually working on counterinsurgency operations. So end of day, I think these books actually add to the debate of what really
but what is the position of the Congress, Sanjay Jha, on this particular issue?
People,
are you comfortable?
Are
you comfortable with this information being shared in public?
No, we definitely believe, and this is a point that has been said even earlier, that the contents of the book that Mr. Dulat has written needs to be taken with gravitas, and if he said some things out there and put it in the public domain, it is for every defense analyst, for people like General Malik, whom I have met and I have the highest respects for him. Let me reiterate that point. I would respectfully agree or disagree with him as the case might be. But these are opinions of people that need to be talked about. End of day, as you yourself said, as Mr. Dulat has himself said, that there are a lot of things that are actually supposedly concealed, but are also known to the people who are actually operating on those assignments or on those particular.
Okay, before I go back to
I think let's not be squeamish about it.
Okay, before I go back to General Malik, Sanju Verma, I just want to just quote a little bit more from what Mr. Dulat has said, and he said all of this in an interview to NDTV last night. And the point that you are trying to make, that this could be some sort of an embellished account, the fact is, he stands by what he has argued. In fact, he's added a lot more. He says, and I quote, anybody on the right side of Delhi has been getting money from Delhi. Most agents are paid agents. No better way of dealing with Kashmir. Corrupting a person is more ethical than killing him. If a person has gone on record, and we are going to play out that interview in about 15 minutes from now, once again, we played it last night at 9 p.m. live. Why are you choosing to confront Dulat? Why don't you just accept what he said?
Vishnu, my limited knowledge, excuse me?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Yes, Vishnu, my limited knowledge of how the media works is that, there are always two sides to a coin. And I'm sure this is something that even the very savvy Mr. Sanjay Jha, will agree to, despite the fact that, he feels I have been rather passionately defending.
No, but Sanju, what does the
BJP.
media have
The
to
fact
do with
of the
this?
matter
This is a book written by an intelligence guru.
Objective, neutral. No, let me complete. You cannot ask me a question and that. Let me ask you a simple question. Why is it that no one in the media, no one from the media, everybody seems to be jumping the gun and, being happy to believe what Dulat has to say? Why is it that nobody seems to have interviewed or taken on record the statements of Mr. Prabhat Kumar, who was the chief of the crisis management group
at that time? Why did the BJP believe Sanjay Baru?
Nobody from the media
Why did the
has
BJP
Mr.
believe Natwar Singh?
Did then police commissioner
Sanju,
of
please
Punjab?
answer the question.
You need to get
believe
both sides
Sanjay
of the
Baru,
coin.
you believe
cannot
Natwar
have a
Singh,
one-sided
and they were
story
not
to
part
form
of the
a biased
security
conclusion.
establishment.
That's all that I'm saying.